Hello, my friend. Have you ever looked at a monk wearing a Kāsāya robe and wondered, why does a muted, earth-toned cloth, stitched from small pieces, suddenly make your heart grow still? If that robe isn't only meant to cover the body, then what is it reminding us of without saying a word? Why did the Buddha teach that the robe should be sewn in the pattern of rice fields? Why did monks long ago gather discarded scraps of cloth, wash them clean, dye them into quiet tones, and sew them by hand? And if peace, too, can be stitched back together like that, then what is Walk for Peace teaching us through each silent step? By the end of this video, you'll understand this. Sometimes, all it takes is slowing down by one step, and your whole life begins to change direction. In Buddhism, a monk's Kāsāya robe has never been just a set of clothes. For many Buddhists, it is a quiet yet noble symbol, a symbol of leaving worldly life behind and entering a path of simplicity, discipline, and inner freedom. The robe covers the body, but what it points to is even greater: letting go. That's why, in tradition, the Kāsāya is also called the robe of liberation, and sometimes it is called the field of merit robe, a field of blessings. It may sound unusual, but the image is beautiful. Just as a field helps rice grow, the robe reminds a practitioner to cultivate the field of the heart, to nurture wholesome seeds so the spiritual life can mature. Seen through the spirit of Walk for Peace, the Kāsāya robe becomes a wordless statement. Walk for Peace is not a slogan to shout, not a debate to win or lose. It is a path to walk through lived experience. And the robe, in its quiet way, does the same. It reminds both the wearer and the viewer that peace doesn't come from speaking beautifully, but from living rightly, walking rightly, breathing rightly, one step at a time. The word Kāsāya comes from Sanskrit, often explained as a faded, muted color, no longer a pure shade. It suggests something unpolished, not showy, even weathered color, meaning the cloth no longer holds a pristine, perfect look. That is the point. The robe was not created to make the wearer look impressive, but to remind the wearer of simple living, of releasing desire, and of moving against the habit of chasing appearances. Walk for Peace carries that same rhythm. In a world used to noise, used to making things big, used to needing proof, this journey chooses something different: quiet, steady endurance. No need to show off, no need for too much, only enough truth, enough sincerity, enough patience to walk through each day, and to remind one another, peace can begin in the smallest things. According to the Vinaya, in the early days, the Buddha's Sangha dressed not very differently from other religious practitioners. Then, over time, for many reasons, including helping people recognize monastics more easily and avoiding misunderstandings and unfair criticism, the Buddha established rules regarding robes. One important point is this: a monk's robe should not be made from a single uncut piece of cloth, but should be cut and then stitched back together. At first, it sounds like a technical detail, but inside it is a clear message. A monastic does not live to accumulate or to cling to what feels perfect and luxurious, but chooses a path of restraint and enough. And strangely, that cut and stitch spirit resembles how Walk for Peace heals people. Sometimes we move through life carrying broken pieces, a shock, a loss, anger, a wound. We can't go back and become whole the way we used to be, but we can learn to stitch ourselves back together, with mindfulness, with kindness, by slowing down so we can hear our own heart more clearly. Just as the robe is formed from separate pieces of cloth, a peaceful life is often formed from small choices, steady choices, day after day. There is a well-known story about the field pattern of the Kāsāya robe. While traveling with Venerable Ananda, The Buddha saw rice fields divided into neat, square plots, with clean boundaries, arranged in orderly sections. He told Ananda to use that pattern to sew robes for the Sangha. From then on, the field-patterned robe became the standard model, preserved through many traditions. Why a field? Because a field is where things are planted and nurtured. And practice is the same kind of process, planting wholesome seeds, compassion, patience, mindfulness, then caring for them through ethical discipline and awareness until they bear the harvest of steadiness, wisdom, and liberation. Walk for Peace is also a field like that, but a field for modern life. Each step is a seed. Each time you pause to breathe deeply instead of reacting quickly is watering. Each time you choose gentler words, kinder actions, is another moment of planting. And the wonder is this: we don't have to wait until we become perfect to begin. We only need to begin where we are and walk. Beyond the field pattern story, there is another explanation of the robe's origin, humble and even more touching. In older tradition, many monks did not buy new cloth. They gathered discarded scraps of cloth, sometimes from trash heaps, sometimes from cremation grounds or cemeteries, brought them back, washed them clean, dyed them into muted colors, patched and stitched them into a robe. That is why the Kāsāya often looks like many small pieces joined together. This was not about style. It was a way to affirm a life choice, humility, simplicity, non-harming, and a constant reminder that this body is impermanent and one day returns to the earth. The lesson of Walk for Peace moves along that same depth. When we truly see impermanence, we begin to live more gently. We cling less. We care less about winning. We feel less need to prove ourselves. We choose something more important, keeping our own mind from becoming a battlefield. And when one person creates less war inside, the world around them naturally becomes a little less warlike too. The Vinaya also expresses that spirit in the rules about materials. A monastic should not use luxurious fabrics and should not use materials that harm living beings. So the robe is not only about what to wear, but a question. Are we living lightly? Are we making others suffer? Are we growing compassion? In the end, Walk for Peace is that same question, asked with the feet. Each day passing through a town, meeting an eye, receiving a smile or a greeting, the journey reminds us compassion is not an idea, it is how we show up for one another. No grand speeches, just living in a way that we don't become the reason someone else feels heavier. Then there is a well-known rule: 3 robes, 3 are enough. In the story, the Buddha saw many monks burdened with too many robes. Some rolled on their heads, some on their shoulders, some at their waists. Then, on a cold night, he experienced it directly. Early evening, 1 robe. Midnight, a second. Near dawn, a third. From that, he concluded 3 robes are enough to cover the body, handle heat and cold, guard against insects, and preserve modesty and dignity. If someone cannot bear the cold, they may add more, but preferably old robes in the spirit of enough. There is a beautiful balance here, not extreme, not careless, simply living by this truth. Fewer needs make the heart lighter. And that is also a major lesson of Walk for Peace. We don't go far because we have a lot. We go far because we carry less. Less luggage so the steps feel lighter. Less anger so the heart can rest in peace. Less judgment so we can see others with wider, more compassionate eyes. In the common classification, there are 3 main layers of robes: an inner robe, an outer robe, and an outermost robe, often more formal, used when greater dignity is needed. Some traditions also classify robes by the number of sections, the stitched panels, more or fewer depending on lineage rules and monastic standing. But whatever the names, they meet at one point. The robe exists to remind the practitioner to live rightly, not to create competition. Just like Walk for Peace, after passing through so many places and meeting so many people, what remains is not achievement, but something gentle. What kind of heart did I walk with? Did I keep kindness in each step? Did I help someone feel less alone? In color, too, the Kāsāya holds the spirit of not a pure, bright shade. It is not meant to stand out or attract attention. It chooses muted tones to reduce craving and showiness. Today, robe colors vary by region and tradition. Some are brown or reddish-brown, some are yellow, some are gray-blue, some are black, some are dark maroon. Those differences belong to culture and climate, but the shared meaning remains: humility, simplicity, and not being led by appearances. Look deeper and you'll see the robe is not only quiet in color, it is quiet in its message. Walk for Peace is the same. It isn't flashy, yet it endures. And there are things in life that can only bloom when we become quiet enough to nourish them. In the scriptures, the Kāsāya is given many names: the robe free from defilement, the lotus robe, the compassion robe. This is how tradition uses images to support the heart of the practitioner and the learner. Whether we understand these merits as symbols or as faith, the essential message remains ethical. To respect the robe is to respect the path of awakening, to respect practice, and to respect a way of living that aims toward goodness. And finally, what matters most: a robe does not make a monk. Practice is in conduct, in mindfulness, in compassion, and in how we face greed, anger, and delusion each day. But a monk cannot be without the robe, because the robe is a constant reminder of the original vow: to leave the household life, to leave the house of afflictions, and to enter the path of training. It reminds the practitioner that each day they must continue cultivating the field of the heart, pulling weeds of ignorance, watering wholesome seeds, growing wisdom and compassion. And Walk for Peace, in a very everyday way, is a robe like that, a reminder not made of cloth, but of footsteps. That peace is not something we wait for the world to hand us, but something we practice living from within. From one breath, from one slow step, from one moment of less anger, from one choice not to harm. Seen this way, the Kāsāya is no longer ancient or distant. It becomes something close, a gentle reminder that happiness doesn't always come from having more, but sometimes from letting go of more. Peace doesn't necessarily come when life has no storms, but when inside us there is a place quiet enough, bright enough, to move through storms without losing ourselves. And that is also the spirit of Walk for Peace. We don't need a perfect world to begin loving. We only need to begin today, in this very step. May you always be at peace in this life. Namo Buddha.